Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Connecting Greeks podcast. I'm Ari, and I am here with some of my favorite dudes in the whole entire world. Number one, Foti Stamos. How are you, Foti?
I'm well, and yourself, brother?
I'm doing very well, and it's always a pleasure when we have the big man on the show with us. And it's been a little bit, and he's been traveling, and we're happy to hear that he's been killing it everywhere he goes. Angelo Tsaroukas, what's up, man?
Hey, Foti. Hey, Adi. Foti looks like he's talking to us from a minimum security prison.
He should be in maximum
I'm
security.
under house arrest.
Please,
House
arrest.
House arrest.
Well, you know, it's been a while. It's been summer. Some people got to go to Greece this year. Others didn't. Some of us had to work. Others didn't. But as always on Connecting Greeks podcast, we have fun. We try to find interesting guests. Our guest today, I find very interesting. Another fellow Canadian from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. He's got a master of arts in publishing. He's got a bachelor in English. He is a musician. He's a content creator. He's a voiceover artist. He's a dreamer, which I love, and he's an author. Oh. And already he wrote a book called "How Not to Find Work."
I love it.
Which I love. So welcome to the show, Zafirios Georgilas. Hi, Zaf. Call you Zaf. Is that okay?
Zaf is perfect. Hi, Angelo.
Oh, and he has a band called Zafirios, the band,
yes.
Which that's I love. So Zaf, when I told the guys about you, we were when me and Zaf have been corresponding on other things, and
yes.
Like you know how it is, you got to keep on it. When you told me about your book. And I haven't been home. I'm going to get a copy of it. How Not to Find Work, which is probably a Greek parent's dream. A book about how not to find work. I found it very. Now I've seen some of the reviews. Have been awesome, and the response to it has been good. Amazon and the publishing houses. Tell us a bit about yourself. I want people to know who you are. So tell us a little bit how you got to that book and everything else.
Okay. Thanks, Angelo. Hi, Foti. Hi, Adi. The background of my book. So I've been a musician since I was a teenager, but my immigrant Greek dad has always pushed me to have and education, you know, any kind of education. So I had a few degrees. I got my second one in London. I came back to Vancouver, and then I couldn't find work in the field that I wanted to get in because Vancouver is a small media city. So I took some temping jobs, which were really bizarre and didn't relate to my education, but gave me some stories to tell. So that's why I decided to write this book. So part of this book is also based on stories I've heard about Kitsilano, which Angelo knows. It used to be a very Greek neighborhood in Vancouver, and these stories that my friends would tell me about some of these Greeks were almost like out of a Scorsese movie, but without the mob, but you know, like Mean Streets almost, and just very wild characters. I thought this has to go inside the book as well as this character's quest, looking for a job. Oh, we got an audience as well tonight.
You know, Zaf, the book "How Not to Find Work." I have a lot of relatives and people I know that can relate to that book because it's so funny. And you said that, you know, the characters in Vancouver. I lived in Vancouver a long time ago, and I think what you said resonates pretty much anywhere. And the idea of, you know, you said you couldn't find work in what you were doing, so you decided to take temp jobs, and then this is how. So by doing that, by actually going to get employment, you were able to write a book about how not to find work.
Yes,
which I think is interesting, and the way you described it, brilliant. With these Scorsese characters, those guys that hang out in the restaurants or the cafeteria down in Kitsilano on Broadway there. That's Pocati. That's Pocati. All those guys that
we got fucking two times over here.
You always have those cab drivers or those guys at the cafeteria that tell you everything about life.
Exactly. Well, when you said that he's in a Greek neighborhood and he's hearing not just his own experiences, but people telling him stories, I mean, that's it. That sells it for me. Like, because who has better stories than an all Greek neighborhood in Vancouver? Like, I mean, I'm interested very much now that you said that to like hear these stories. So, like, I definitely want to read this.
Yes, well, I had to change, of course, some of the characters' names because one of them had to leave Canada. That's another story. I don't think he's allowed back into Canada, but
I think I know the guy.
I think you probably do, Angelo. And so I changed his name, and then I put his nickname in his last name. So I hope there's none of my close friends who know this person who are watching it who might contact his family in Greece. So the next.
This is like witness protection program.
It is, because there were, one of the clubs that's described, it says that things that are not to be mentioned in the outside world go on in this club.
All right, so you guys definitely have built up anticipation that I can read this book now, which is perfect.
You got to get
this is what you want to do.
But
thank you.
See, I remember Zaf. I remember when I was living in Ottawa, there was the Cafe Neo, and there was this guy Costi, and he used to come in every day with lottery tickets. And the guy was talking to him. He goes, "Yana boca, escassa, ecodulia,
ecodulia."
Technically, he could say it's a job. But who would know better than the author of How Not to Find Work? Like,
well, actually, and speaking about Scassa, I have something else too, because the protagonist, Mick Alexiou, works at a happiness seminar, and so there's lots of miserable people there, and so they try to get him to think about, they have a laughter section. So they try to get him to think about something that's funny. So he thinks about his friend's mother getting angry and screaming, "Get out! Get out!"
I hope that's
Zaf, that guy with the lottery tickets. He used to take the newspaper and he'd circle the numbers. That's all the guy did. And I go, you're making me laugh. I go, what kind of job is that? He goes, it's a job. I have to do it every day. And that's why I think that your book, I think I can see why people are resonating to your book, because I think a lot of people can identify and relate to it. I've already related to what you're saying to me, and because now you've triggered off all these people that I knew in the past, and the one guy that can't go back to Canada. I mean,
I'm gonna get some angry messages later.
It's okay, but
it's
for everybody listening to this podcast, got to get this book, and Ari's gonna put all the details on at the end. But let me ask you though, isn't this what life's about, Zaf? These stories. This is what people, especially Greeks, not just Greeks, anyone, we die for these stories. I'm laughing, we laugh at those stories. And I think
Yes.
your perspective of it is very, very interesting to me.
Thank you.
It is, so
Thank you. Well, and I mean, we live for these stories, and it's just when my friends would tell me these stories, it was my favorite thing about hanging out with them, not watching a movie or, you know, or as some people like to play video games. No, I want to hear what these stories, and they do such great impersonations. It's like theater
right,
of
right.
of these people and these characters and just these ridiculous things that they say, but somehow they get through life. And, and somebody else would look and say, "What? Are these people real?"
I mean, every day I see people and I'm like, how the heck do these people get through life?
I think we discuss this every day.
Yes.
We discuss it every day.
In case you're wondering, the guy behind me is my Theo Aguili.
Oh, Angeli.
I don't know. He's some guy at the wall. I don't know who he is.
Okay.
But
Okay. I
believe it.
thought for a moment he
That's
was
Big
a real
Brother.
guy. Because he looks like someone at those Greek dances, that go around and take pictures. And then he'd be wearing a suit like that and that expression.
So everybody listening to the audio, jump on the video and look at the picture behind Angelo. And
Yes.
It's like that picture. You're right. It's like one of those guys on Proidros, these Peloponnesos.
He's Laconias.
These Laconias. So, Zaf,
Yes.
you lived in Greece for a while. Where's your family from there? And you live there too, right? So, I mean, where's your family from?
Well, I spent part of my childhood there. I spent it in my dad's Chorio, his village, which is about 33 kilometers north of Thessaloniki.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
so
In Macedonia, okay.
yes, exactly, close to Kilkee. So it was it still is very agricultural. Agricultural. My papu and yaya had a farm, and I'd be woken up in the morning by the rooster. They had chickens, a horse, a pig, and so that's where I spent my childhood. So I'd
Very
be
cool.
Yeah, it was, but I didn't realize how unique it was because I go to school here, and then in the summers I go to the Chorio, and it was 180 degrees different. Very, very
No kidding.
Yeah, very traditional. You see the papa at the cafanil with the other men
Having a cigarette.
Yes, yes.
But
Buying
it's one of
lottery
those
tickets.
things where you probably didn't appreciate it at the time because when you're young, it's like everything's boring, everything's stupid, everything's this and that.
Yes.
But years later, as an adult, it's like, wow, that is definitely unique. I mean, talk to anybody. How many people have experiences like that outside of your Greek friends? It's not many, and it's really cool.
It is. Well, I was very fortunate, and I think that was the best part of my childhood.
Yeah.
And to see my papu waking up early to go work in the garden, and then just that very close-knit community. His brother lived a block up, and then another brother lived in the village, and just always cousins to go play with and knock on people's doors, and it just was very safe. And yeah, that's what I remember. I mean, of course, it would have been different probably if I lived there full time, and then you see the other things which you don't want to see, but just the realities of it. But I was lucky to see that and to get to know my grandparents.
Oh, 100%.
And it's a part of Greece that tourists don't go to because people would say, "Oh, you're Greek." Oh, Santorini, Mykonos, and I said, "Well, my village is
beautiful. It's a beautiful part of Greece, Thessaloniki, and that whole area, Halkidiki. Everybody should go there. I've done some shows there in the last few years, and it is a awesome part of Greece. Thessaloniki is a wonderful city. It's like
it is.
I loved it, man. I mean, it's you're right, Zaf. A lot of people go to Greece, Mykonos, and What's Santorini? A stairmaster for fat people. What the hell are they going to go do there? You're going to climb up the Vuno there. You're going to have a heart attack by the time you can't even consummate your honeymoon. Malaki is anyway. Santorini.
That's beautiful.
Is it one of those things where, like, when you say not a lot of tourists are there, that instantly makes me say, that's where I want to be? Like, is it just me, or is that like a common feeling? I don't. You say people of Mykonos, Santorini. It's like those are the last. Honestly, those are the last places I want to be at.
Agreed.
And a beautiful choreo that I've never been to. That's full of good people and nice thing, and nice. Just the whole vibe. Like that's what I love about Greece. I didn't realize that when I was in my late teens and 20s. It was like the Mykonos and Santorini type things, but now it's like that's the last thing I want. I want what you're describing. That sounds like the perfect place.
We'll definitely visit northern Greece, and Thessaloniki has very, very fascinating history and great nightlife, and
there's a lot of young people there, right? Because of schools and such.
Yeah, the Aristotelian University.
That's awesome.
And I told you.
Oh yeah, and I told you.
So Zap, let me ask you, because you're wearing your New York Dolls shirt. I got my Led Zeppelin shirt on. Led Zeppelin.
Oh man, that's awesome.
Led Zeppelin shirt.
Foti, very nice Foti.
Foti's got his Greek wife beater. I don't have a job shirt. This is good.
I just got out of the dryer.
Out of the dryer, so it's clean.
Just to stay inside the theme of what you're saying, Angelo. Yesterday, I was wearing a Misfits t-shirt. This morning, a Ramones t-shirt. But I put a blank shirt because I was like, I can't wear that stuff on screen. I should have.
You should have today. Would have been good. We're all wearing them.
Exactly.
So, Zafir, so tell us a little bit about the music, because I know that you're big on this Zafirios. I love that name. You're probably thinking, how do I name my band? Just use my first name, Zafirios.
I know.
I love it, man.
Thank you. Sometimes, well, it's like Van Halen or Bon Jovi or Santana.
Why not? Why not? Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sometimes I wonder if it was the wrong thing, but then band names to me are just secondary, to the music.
If you guys are interested, the four of us could start the Fotios 5 or the Fotios 4.
Fotios 4. Okay, sure.
Fotios.
Clearly, Ari's been drinking. He sees 5 people here, not 4.
Yeah. Every time I think of a band name, it's something 5. So
Fab 5. And so, what kind of influences do you have, Zaf, for your band? Like, I know you guys are gigging, so somewhere in Vancouver.
Yes, in Burnaby, the Admiral in North Burnaby on September 23rd. Musical influences. Nice. I listen to a wide range of music, from doo-wop to blues to, rock, like Cheap Trick, who I saw a few weeks ago.
Yes, very good. Yeah.
I love them. I love Zeppelin as well. I love some newer Australian bands like Tame Impala. And I of course love Greek music, but we don't do Greek music, but we might sing, our bassist, who's part Greek, might sing a song in Greek at this show because we have to play 3 sets. So we might throw a song in. But I love Rembetika, and I love
well, that would be cool.
Now, would you make it a rock? Would you make it a rock song, like a Greek rock song type of thing? Or
no, do the straight Rebetiko. That's it. Old. It's like old.
No. I say twist it.
Twist it. Twist.
Twist.
Got to twist. Look, I don't know for this show. It's just with Greek music, I love it, but we're not a Greek band per se. But Greek music band per se, but as actually, so it's just I listen to a lot of funk music, like Sly and the Family Stone and Prince. So there's a bit of that influence in. So it's a hard thing to describe with music because you listen to a wide variety. I love Leonard Cohen's lyrics, and So you put this wide variety in, and then it comes out completely different than your influences. And then people say, well, I don't hear that. Well, I mean, it's just, how can you plan it? I mean, that's what art is. It's what you listen to, but comes out the way you express it.
It's funny you said Leonard Cohen, who was one of the great poets of the last century, Montreal guy. You know, he lived in Hydra. He lived in Hydra for 10 years.
That's
in
right.
Greece. And then, you know, Suzanne was the woman that lived with him there. He said a lot of that. And I feel that with you, a lot of the influences he had on his music and stuff came from his experiences. And I think it's interesting. You're a good example of someone who is Canadian with Greek roots. You went to live in Greece. You come to Canada. You all the opportunities to do what you want. You fulfill your dad's wish to get a degree, like all of us. We have to get a job, and then you follow your dream. I think it's a good example. But it's so funny how I think that's what makes us who we are, all of us. You know, when you talk to people, I was a travel agent. I was in business. Now I'm a comedian, and I'm here talking to you from a cruise ship off the coast of Mexico. You know, but I'm doing what I love doing, and it's one of the things I do. Same with you with the music. You got the music, you got all the other stuff. You know, I mean, so I think it's great that you're doing that. But the one thing I liked about your bio, and it's an honest thing about your bio, is that you know, you wrote dreamer.
Yes, I am.
Good for you. And most people, I applaud you for writing it, because most people wouldn't write it. I like that. I liked it.
Thank you. Well, I mean, it's a bit, you know, vulnerable in a way, but at the same time, I don't care. I mean, if you're a creative person and you're an artist, you have to take risks. And, you know, I've got into problems with my own father for saying that, because, you know, he would very disapproving, even though he's a dreamer himself. You know, I watched this Wham documentary, and I was watching it with my girlfriend. She was laughing at one part where George Michael's dad was talking, but I wasn't, because his dad told him, "You can't sing," and his dad forbid him to have records in the house. And then what does he do? He becomes one of the most successful songwriters of the late 20th century.
Of all time.
Like he's you know, I've always liked Wham was a little bit like before I really got into music, but George Michael I was always a huge fan of, and I had no idea how freaking talented that guy was until after he died. He was insanely talented.
Very talented. And I think too, you know, having a father who told him, you know, you can't sing, you can't do this, don't do this. You have 6 months.
Horrible. That's so
you have 6 months, and then you go work in the restaurant with me.
Imagine the guy, this guy. We all know how he sings. We all know his voice. Imagine your dad being so like against what you want to do, to like strip, like one of the most talented people ever. You're gonna strip him down to like not having any talent.
Common story.
Yeah,
it is. It's a common story.
Seriously, that's like child abuse.
And now,
child abuse. Well, a few quick things I want to say about that. I think that drove him even more. I think deep down on it was, I'm going to show you. And that's why he became such a workaholic and a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And, you know, I had that too with my own father, you know. You know, I was a bit careful.
We all do. We all do.
We all do, because I tell him something, I go, you're going to fail. You're going to live on the streets.
That's horrible.
Well, it is, but you know what? That's exactly, because think about where they came from.
No, I mean, I get it. Like, I get why. But as, you know, my parents were from Montreal, just like everybody else's. But it's like, they came here to give us a better life. They worked hard to give us a better life. They wanted us to be educated. The education brings some opinions. And the opinion is like, support your child, even if they're doing something you don't want. Support them, and at the very least, don't degrade what their interests are. Don't degrade what their passion is. If you can't support it, then just don't say anything.
I'm laughing at Angelo because you have an enlightened perspective, but Angelo has the realistic, which is...
Well, you know what, guys? I'm a dreamer too.
No, Ari, I agree with what Ari's saying, but my dad would tell us, if you can do 1/3 of what I did, I'll be happy. I go, how about half? No, half is too much. Half is too much. 1/3. My dad would call us bum, but you see, they grew up hard life. They grew up a hard life.
Yes, they did.
So man.
The other thing, guys, is that I think our parents' generation was not only that, but they had this sense of they had to show others that their children were accomplished. They didn't want the rest of the Greeks,
right.
Their kids,
to talk about him.
Oh, in the belly, so he does nothing. Like they feared that they wanted their child to be accomplished so that they can praise them to the others.
Yeah,
but look,
factor we dealt with.
Zafirios proved them all wrong. He wrote a book called "How Not to Find Work." He became famous for writing a book about not working. I applaud him. I think that's brilliant.
Thank you. And the irony is there was an article in Greek about the book in Ethnikos Kyrix, the National Herald, and my dad saw it, and my dad was proud about it. Of course. The same guy who put me down. Well, I mean, it was... He challenged it. He challenged it. He's a Greek dad. Yes, that's the right word, because they grew up in a very hard life in the Chorió. And, and people were ugly, very tough, because it was tough times. So,
think about basically what I said before. Angelo, you have a daughter. Foti, you have 2 daughters. I have my kids. I can't even imagine saying half the stuff that my mom told me to my kid, but it was normal for her, and not only normal, but like accepted in the community to be like, oh, you're gonna amount to nothing. You gotta do this. You gotta do that. It's like, and then I look at my kid and I'm like, I can't do it. Like I can never do that. I can't.
Well, good for you.
What's good? What's bad? Is it gonna not motivate them? Was I motivated because they said it? There's pros and cons to both sides, I think. But to our parents' credit, they didn't know any better. They had a hard life. They had to work their asses off to do anything and to offer us anything. So, I mean, I give them praise for that. But it's like there's just these little methodologies of just being an educated person that, like, don't stifle a child's dream. Like, try to do something to, like, let them have that confidence. Let them have that passion. Yes. It's good for your life. It's good for your mental health. It's good for everything.
Absolutely.
So that's the only thing that I say, like, maybe if they knew a little bit more or they would maybe not have, like, been so, like, not condescending, but, like, stifling.
Yeah. Well, no, but Ari, think of it. My dad left Greece 1949 after Civil War. 15 years old, got on a boat.
No, I get it, man.
I agree with what you're saying, but at the same time, though, we all of us had to grow up tough love.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing, and I think the motivation. It's funny that George Michael's dad told me you're never going to sing, and now they're all fighting over the estate, which is worth about $1 billion now. That's when Greeks come together, leave the money. If you want them to come together, leave them Horafia, houses or money. And all of a sudden, they all come together.
Our universal connection to each other.
I like what you said, though. It's true. Zaf, our parents grew up with that shame that their kids would grow up to amount to nothing. Because that's how they felt, And I think now it's changed. Our generation's changed it a bit. We've been able to look. Nobody in my family was in showbiz. Nobody. I had nobody to show me what to do. I had to go eat it, tough way. I moved to England. I moved to Toronto. I moved to LA. People said, "Who helped you?" Nobody. I just had to go and do it. Figure it out. That's the thing. now my kids are at school in showbiz now because daddy is. So it's different, right? But that's why I think that's the purpose of Connecting Greeks. When I saw you write that thing, and he reached out to me through a mutual friend we have who's a music file who I'm trying to get your stuff to him, and I will. And
thank you.
And I'm not saying names because we don't want to say names right now, but at the same time, though, it's like I appreciate the hustle, and everybody asks me what's the thing about all of us, and all of us here have the hustle, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah,
got to do that.
Well, we do, and I think we learned that from our parents. I mean, I just watched my dad when he had a restaurant and then later a hotel. I mean, he was constantly working, and so I learned that example from his actions. And if the times were tough economically, didn't lie down on the couch. He went to find some way out of a situation.
Right, you got to work.
Yeah, you do.
Look, I married an Armenian woman with a spending disorder. Trust me.
I don't think the fact
I totally understand this.
You can remove Armenian and just say woman.
Guys,
I'm not saying that in bad ways. Do not email or send me death threats. I was just joking.
Oh, we're gonna get canceled.
We're having fun here.
That's money. We're getting canceled. The truth is the truth. They can spend money. They'll get my money.
You guys need a sign. Man. You guys need a sign. Remember the old home improvement shows? Every time Tim would say something stupid, Al would hold up the address.
The sign.
Every time I say something stupid, just hold up an address.
Hold it up. But this is cool.
You can hold up this T-shirt.
Yeah,
the T-shirt, man. That's it.
You're in the same boat as me now.
Well, this is cool. So before I pass it over to Forty, who's going to ask you some questions, it's been great having you on here. What's coming up with the book, and with you? What's going to be? What do you see happening with that?
Well, there was talk that there might be a reading in Chicago that, I would love for that to happen, and then for our band to go play there because Chicago's a city I've always wanted to visit, and I mean large Greek community there, and also huge, huge, and I love a lot of music that's come out of there, and I mean my book, I'm putting this out there. I would like for it to be made into either a film or TV show, to show the plight of this character who has to do what he has to do to find a job, and also these wild stories of some of these Greek people that I've met, and so they finally
made me laugh too. It made me laugh so much.
I have to tell you,
man.
I'm a media junkie. I've always been a pop culture media junkie, and the title, what's the exact title? How not to find a job?
How not to find work.
So that title right there, I could completely 100% picture when I turn on my streaming and I see, new show. That title,
How not to find work.
That title sounds like it could be a show. Like, honestly, it does.
Totally. Totally be a show.
Well, I'm putting it out there as a dream.
Well, remember that show, How I Met Your Mother?
Yes.
So how not to find work. It starts off at some cafe neo on Kitsilano there.
Oh, you know
and
what?
The guy's being deported out of Canada.
That whole theme would be perfect. You should pursue that, man. You should definitely pursue that.
Well, it's based on Kitsilano, but the neighborhood has a generic name, so it could be any.
It's universal.
Neighborhood in North America.
Well, that was the brilliance of My Big Fat Greek Wedding, because if you were Jewish, if you were Persian, if you were Italian, if you were Spanish, whatever, it all fit.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think you should pursue that, because that's
cool.
That has the whole vibe.
Yeah.
And what's your website, Zaf? If people watch you, what's the website Ari's going to post it later if people want to get the book.
Okay, it's on Amazon. So the book, you go to Amazon and then you type in how not to find work. You can also type in Zafirios, Zafirios, and yeah, it should show up with my first name in there.
Awesome.
Okay, cool. Okay, good. All right, Mr. Fortios, take it from here, as we always do.
Again, just, an honor to have you on the show and listen to you. Very inspirational. I think every guest with so many different backgrounds continues to inspire us, makes us, really, hit home and make us kind of go back to our roots, whether we're Greek Americans, Greek Canadians, Greek Australians, Greek South Africans. I think we all come from the same sheet of cloth. But you mentioned growing up in Greece when you were younger. Did you also spend time in your teenage years in the Hodio in Greece?
Yes, I did. And I went when I was 18, the first time I traveled on my own. I went to Ireland to find a job. And actually, the second week in Ireland in August, it started raining. And I thought, what kind of summer is this? And I don't know anybody here. And then my dad said, well, why don't you go to Greece, to the Horio? And I thought, okay, and I will. My grandparents were still alive, so I got to spend time with them as
good.
So having said that, Zaf, as spending time in Greece and getting the experiences to get to know Zaf a little more as a Greek, some questions for you.
Yes.
Uzo or Tsipuro?
Oh, no contest. Tsipuro from the Horio.
There you go. There you go. Coffee drinker?
Coffee drinker?
Would it
Are
be
you insulting me with that question? Of course I am.
Frappe or Fredo? I know Fredo is a very popular alternative these days, but it seems like, it's kind of taken away from the frappe factor. But as a coffee drinker, do you have a preference?
Well, I mean, usually at home I make espresso, but I love Greek coffee when you have it after a siesta in the Horio, and then I like Fredo as well and frappe. So I'm open-minded. To use marketing speak, I'm inclusive.
Okay, cool. One more question on this basis of preferences. Calamari or octopus?
Well, how's the calamari made?
Fried.
Okay, well, I like it baked. Can I have that option?
It's your, you got to pick one or the other.
Okay, I'll go with octopus.
Excellent. And then again,
Good strand, baked calamari.
So we're talking about experiences, Zaf, with growing up in a Greek family with Yayadis and Papudis and our parents and what they say to us and what gets drilled to our heads. Is there any saying that you grew up with as a kid that still sticks in your mind as a kid growing up? We have all the, our parents throw things at us all the time, all these Greek innuendos and sayings. Is there anything maybe that you want to share with us growing up in your family that stuck with you?
Well, yeah, my great, my Theo, who lived in Athens, my papu's brother, was quite educated. He was the only one of his brothers to go on and get past elementary school. Said "pidixeto kalami," which means literally he jumped the bamboo. So it's someone who maybe has a stroke of luck or is successful, but then loses their connection and their humility and becomes a bit arrogant. So he jumped over the bamboo. So he's forgotten about where he came from.
Oh, I like that one. That's the first time I've ever heard that.
Me too. Pidixeto kalami.
That's what Foti does every day.
Yeah.
Oh man,
good one.
I should be in the kalami business. And last question for you, Zaf. And you mentioned, in your background, in your bio, as a dreamer, as Greeks, we're super dramatic. We love the drama. We live by these like crazy thoughts. but we're very superstitious people. Do you live by any superstition in this stage of your life as a Greek?
I try not to believe in them, but it's just that I've
Catch
had.
ourselves.
Pardon?
We catch ourselves sometimes behaving in these superstitions, even though we don't believe them sometimes.
Well, we don't believe in them, but we get ingrained in us. And I remember my dad said that we had bad luck in the house that we lived in because a bottle of olive oil got knocked over and fell to the ground.
Oh, I can see that.
I know it sounds ridiculous, but it was like a curse, and my parents' marriage ended a little bit after that. I mean, there have been problems long before that, but it's just, very dramatic tying it to that incident.
Something that's irrelevant.
Yeah, it's like
irrelevant, but I mean that was the cause.
Yeah, but if you believe it, if you're fully believing in it, that's gonna that could definitely cause problems, or it could definitely. You said there were problems before, but it could definitely push you right over the edge, because you believe it so much.
Yeah.
Or else, you can think back in time and then you could remember that incident and think that was the cause for it, even though there were lots of other reasons.
Yeah.
I'm sure we've heard plenty of stories from our grandparents, our elders, who will reflect on something because of a superstition or some kind of a irrelevant matter.
Yes. Oh, definitely. And it's a neat way, it's a tidy way of tying an incident up or explaining something.
Exactly. Well, Zaf, thank you so much for letting us know a little bit more about you through these questions.
Thank you, Foti.
My pleasure. It's been a pleasure as well getting to know you through this episode. I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of you, hear from you more often.
Thank you.
Thanks, Zaf. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Angelo and Ari, for having me on as well. I'm very grateful for this, and it's so great what you're doing for Greeks around the world, because it's helping us get our voice out. Because you telling me about how you had to make it on your own, and you're giving back, and that's very kind.
Yeah, that's Angelo, baby.
Yes.
Peace.
We love it. Thank you, Zaf, so much for being with us. Thanks, everybody. Thank you to my co-hosts, Foti and Angelo. Angelo, where are you right now? Off the coast of Mexico?
Studiao in Timana. That's where I am.
I've been there. I like it.
You're in Tijuana?
Very close. Very close.
Yeah, there's no hurricane or anything where you are, right?
There was the other day. Last week I was in Vegas and there was a hurricane coming to California. This week now it's gone. So we're
oh my gosh. All right. Well, stay safe, everybody. That's another saying. All right, Zap, thank you so much once again for being with us, taking the time. Thank you, Foti. Thank you, Angelo. Thanks, everybody out there, for watching and listening. And we will see you all next time.
Okay,
bye. Bye.